Is Brock Purdy for real? Like, for real, this good? All that and more in this episode of Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. She is Kate Magdziuk. Follow her on Twitter at FFBallBlast. Kate, Thursday Night Football, pretty decent game. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I feel like that was like one of the more low-key fun games. And Marcus, I love when like my least favorite thing is when we have this game at the beginning of the year and it looks like it's going to be just from a scheduling standpoint, one of the best matchups all year. I love when it happens in reverse, where like the matchup looks terrible and then it happens to be actually really interesting with
like next week, like Jets Jaguars on Thursday Night Football, beginning of the year.
Never would have guessed. Yeah, I like that sounds it's kind of an interesting matchup. Like, is Trevor Lawrence going to be literally eaten alive by Sauce Gardner? Maybe. I don't know. But he's hot right now. Is Zay Jones going to continue to Zay Jones all over the like there's lots of interesting storylines left in the tank. And I love when we shift from disappointment to that ended up not being too bad.
Yeah, let's this game wasn't too bad. Let's talk about the 49ers side of things. We've got to start
with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, we got to start with Brock Purdy. Kate, he opened this game, I believe, 11 of 11, just throwing I don't want to say dimes because it's not quite the case, but he was throwing nice passes to wide open receivers. Kate, in his two starts now for the 49ers, he's completing 70% of his passes, 402 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. In fact, he could have had even bigger games if the 49ers weren't up so much in that Tampa Bay game. They were up, 35-7, like midway through the third quarter. I'm just going to ask you, is Brock Purdy for real?
I think he's actually a really decent quarterback, but I think a lot of what Brock Purdy is doing lends itself to the scheme. This is a very quarterback friendly scheme. And I think like I'm leaning into that narrative. I'm not here to be the wet blanket on the Brock Purdy train because like dude is so fun to watch. He's clearly got the leadership skills. The locker room loves him. Like it's a really fun story. But Marcus, I do think that the Brock Purdy hype is a moment for dynasty managers to take advantage of.
Okay. How would you do that?
I'm trading for Trey Lance. Like Brock Purdy, man, he's fantastic, right? Like it just has played really clean and good football. 2 touchdowns in each of his last 3 games. Like does not look like Mr. Irrelevant in any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. He looks like a really competent quarterback. Like give me Brock Purdy over Zach Wilson 10 times out of 10 and I'll take it. But I do think like, let's not get too lost in this hype of what Brock Purdy is doing for this team when we still have a former top end draft pick in waiting that I think has had a lot of time to dispel some of the concerns that I had with him in the pre-draft process. So like coming out of college, right? We had Trey Lance. He was a very high upside draft pick. Like you knew he had arm talent, you knew he had mobility. Either this man gets his shot with the 49ers in 2023, or I have to imagine he gets a shot elsewhere. Like, I don't really think it's a matter of, does he fall down the depth chart? I really feel like this is going to be a guy that's going to either garner enough interest to give them a significant reason to trade him, He's a former number 3 overall pick. He's had lots of time to learn this system if he does get the chance to start. Like, that was my biggest concern with Trey Lance, is that lack of, a lot of time and a lot of reps. Like, he hasn't gotten the reps, but he's gotten a lot of mental reps, and he's had a lot of time to learn this playbook. It's already a very, very friendly system for quarterbacks. If he gets his shot, I think he's going to have immense success with the time that he's been able to sit out and learn and develop mentally as a quarterback, because I feel like that was his biggest downfall. Biggest knock coming out of college, accuracy. Guess what? Kyle Shanahan and his system, perfect for that. Like, because you're not scheming to get the ball down the field. You're scheming for yards after the catch. I think this is the moment to trade for Trey Lance when Brock Purdy hype is at its highest.
All right. So my first question for you is, how appealing is Trey Lance to you if he's not in San Francisco? Let's say for whatever reason they decide to stick with Brock Purdy and they say, "Hey Trey, we're going to trade you somewhere else where you can get a chance to start." How much do you devalue him if he's somewhere else next year?
I don't know that I devalue him all that much, to be honest, because I think the upside offset, like, for me, the 49ers offer him a safer floor, right? Like, because of that scheme, because of the ability to, get the ball in receivers' hands and allow them to make the plays. Like, we already know they have those talented receivers. We already know that George Kittle is a yak monster. We already know that Deebo Samuel, when healthy, yak monster. But I think if he gets a shot with another team, that kind of puts the ball back in his hands, and maybe he does make, big plays down the field. It's very dependent on landing spot. I think it's dependent on coaching, but we know that he has the physical attributes. And that's kind of like the toughest part to wrangle it in.
My second question is do you think there's a chance that Trey Lance in 2023 is just Brock Purdy's backup? Because it does feel like every game that Purdy plays well in and the 49ers win, it raises the chance that they either go into next year with a pure quarterback competition or Purdy's just a starter. Let me give you a very realistic possibility. I kind of think the 49ers are the best overall team in the NFC. Now, the Eagles obviously have a better record, but what happens if the 49ers get to the Super Bowl or even win it? There's absolutely no way you can go back to Trey Lance, right?
Then that's where the team trades Trey Lance. Like, I cannot foresee a universe.
But is there going to be another team out there that wants to trade anything significant for Trey Lance going into year 3 after having like 3 starts under his belt and coming off a big injury? Because I wonder at that point if the 49ers are just like, hey, look what happened to us last year. We had a bunch of injuries. Let's just hold on to this guy. His contract is cheap, unless they're getting first round pick plus.
I don't even think you need first round pick plus. Like, wouldn't you want to trade? I mean, like, looking at the Packers, right? Like, if the Packers were to have even gotten a second round pick, I feel like at some point they would have considered it. Like, this is a number 3 overall pick. You literally, like, it very nearly could have tanked your entire team because of the draft capital that you invested in Trey Lance. If you can get a smidgen of that back, knowing that Kyle Shanahan has a system in place that is favorable to backup quarterbacks in general, like, you can go, you know what, like, next year, go draft another Brock Purdy. Not that they grow on trees, but like, you can get a backup quarterback in the draft next year, like, that is going to be working within the same QB system that Trey, like, it's literally just, it's a waste. It's wasteful. And I think that John Lynch would be doing himself and this team's future a disservice if they just let Trey Lance sit as a backup, even if you're getting it, like, second round, third round offers for Trey Lance.
It's going to be very
That's
interesting to
me.
see what happens with the 49ers because I just got a feeling this team is going to go a long ways in the playoff. And if Purdy continues to play at or near the level that we saw the last 2 weeks, it's going to make for some really tough decisions for the 49ers. And I also wonder, like, with Brock Purdy being a 7th round pick and the 49ers being up against the cap kind of over the next 2 or 3 years, if that's not going to factor into this as well. I've got some more questions about the 49ers that I want to ask you, Kate. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Tommy John's, the absolute most comfortable underwear on the planet. Don't make your loved ones face the dead of winter in old t-shirts, ancient underwear, and ratty sweats. Help them fight cold with cozy. Give the gift of Tommy John. And Tommy John, you're just that much more comfortable. You can do everything better. I mean, no lie, I'm wearing my Tommy John pants right now. They're super comfortable. Shop Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale right now and give the gift of comfort to everyone on your list, including yourself. It's okay to buy for yourself around Christmas with new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. I recommend the loungewear. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. With over 18 million pairs sold, giving Tommy John has become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting a gift from Tommy John. That's why Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have fanatics. Celebrate softness season with the gift of Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. Every gift is backed by Tommy John's best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free guarantee. Hurry to Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale and get 30% off everything, plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. Order now so your gifts arrive before the holidays. 30% off plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. All right, Kate, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey because there was a point in this game where I saw that he had played 45 of the 46 snaps on offense. Kyle Shanahan, who loves using running back by committees, isn't doing that. Christian McCaffrey's 26 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. Also caught 6 passes for 30 yards. I mean, Kate, if I would have told you before the trade that, hey, Shanahan's going to give McCaffrey 32 touches in a game, you would have thought that's bonkers. But my question for you, do you think Christian McCaffrey is a little undervalued in Dynasty right now? He's being ranked as RB6 behind players like Saquon Barkley and Travis Etienne.
I mean, I think he is from like a offensive scheme standpoint. Again, this offensive scheme is friendly to pretty much all positions, right? This team is winning. This team, you mentioned it earlier in the show. I don't think there's any team that has fewer holes right now than the San Francisco 49ers. They're a winning team. They produce offense. And I actually kind of disagree with the sentiment that like Kyle Shanahan is a running back by committee guy. I think he's been forced to be a running back by committee guy because of the fact that the running back position has been a smorgasbord of injuries. Like it's been brutal. It has been such bad luck. And it feels like whenever there is a truly healthy running back, we actually see Kyle Shanahan commit, which maybe that's also to his detriment. Like maybe that's fueling the injuries because like every time I feel like we're seeing Christian McCaffrey have a high carry load, I'm a little bit nervous. But I mean,
I also do wonder, like, how did the Elijah Mitchell thing change things? Because it's clear they love Elijah Mitchell, and when he was healthy, he was getting carries, even with Christian McCaffrey. But Kate, to your point, the last 7 games, he's been getting a ton of work. 15 carries, just over 5.5 receptions. So you're talking about 20 touches on one of the most efficient offenses in the league.
Yeah, it feels like Christian McCaffrey is pretty underrated. And this goes back, Marcus, to I think the age-old question of how do you value aging running backs? And like this is kind of the reason why we've struggled, I think, as by and large, to properly evaluate Derrick Henry, right? The touch totals are high. What do you do with that? Like with an aging running back, it's hard. Like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, 26 years old, like it's not necessarily aging, but the touch totals are there. But you know what? He's had 2 years off, essentially to not be accumulating further touches. And the beautiful thing is, if he starts to wear down as a rusher, he's going to, I think, continue to see work as a receiver for a long time.
Is it a hot take or just I guess it wouldn't be a hot take. It'd be like a freezing cold take to just say, I hated him when he was being valued as like RB1, RB2 this offseason, but now that he's like RB5, RB6, I'm in. Like that seems like the right price.
Yeah, it feels right because you know what, Marcus, you're probably going to get RB1 production. Like
Yeah. Anytime he's on the field,
anytime he's on the field, you're going to get that RB1 production and the upside's there. So like, yeah, go trade if I can swap Christian McCaffrey for, let's see.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, like it's
We need to talk about
interesting.
Walker in a second, but yes.
It's interesting for a team in win now mode.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know.
We should talk about Kenneth Walker from last night. He was coming off an injury. He did play a lot. He got 12 carries for 47 yards. He actually helped out in the passing game a little bit. So if you started him this week in your playoffs, 4 for 32. So in PPR leagues, that's like 12 points. Obviously, that's not going to win your matchup for you, but I don't think it's going to cause you to lose either. I was encouraged. Like, this isn't the type of game where this could very easily been a game where Kenneth Walker just looked really, really bad, and he gets you 4 points against the number 1 ranked defense in the league, and you get discouraged. But instead, he finds a way to make it at least a double-digit week for you. I think overall this game actually made me feel more encouraged long-term about Kenneth Walker. If he's going to get 4 targets a game, 5 targets a game, I'm in.
Yeah, Marcus, the encouraging thing here is San Francisco 49ers, like best rushing defense in the league. League low 13 fantasy points allowed per game to opposing running backs. I mean, that is insane. Like this defense has absolutely shut down opposing running backs, and not like bad ones either. Austin Eckler, less than 10 fantasy points. Alvin Kamara, 4 fantasy points. Like you have a lot of potential here. And Marcus, the most interesting thing is the only running back in the NFL who's had more than 15 fantasy points against the San Francisco 49ers defense this year was Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
That just tells you how dominant they've been. They faced some really good talent, and like Kenneth Walker to come out and not poop the bed. I'll say the continued use as a receiver, 5 targets in this outing, and it really it was very encouraging for his floor, like because the ceiling is so high. Kenneth Walker is truly that dude, and he should continue to be valued as a top 5 dynasty running back very easily.
All right, Kate, let's do some commotion. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Total Wine and More. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new Cabernet or Chardonnay or the perfect gift for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. Do you have a favorite wine?
Actually, I don't.
Are you not a wine drinker?
I'll drink wine, Marcus, but I'm very open. And one of my favorite things about Total Wine and More is that they have the little samples.
Yes.
Like, I'm not committed to a favorite wine, and I get to go there and I get to try out different wines, and I kind of walk away from the store every single time with a different bottle. Yeah. And that's what I like.
I like white wine and whatever. So you can find whatever wine you want, all with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the absolute lowest price. Love what you find only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly. Be 21. All right, Kate, commotion time. This is a big one. Most leagues in their fantasy playoffs now. We got to give you a great flex play to help you advance to the next round. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Taysom Hill this week.
Yes.
I'm sweating about it a little bit. But like it's very hard to consider starting Taysom Hill in your fantasy playoffs. Like if you don't have either the tight end position secured or if you don't really have a great flex play, I'm kind of all in on Taysom Hill. You have Mark Ingram injured. You have, this matchup against the Atlanta Falcons defense, who have been a really nice matchup for opposing running backs. Yeah, I know Taysom Hill is not a running back, but he sure can function as one. And like the opportunity, I think, is going to be there. The team is, I think, in need of some playmakers, and why not against this defense that's allowed Deontay Foreman 100+ rushing yards twice. Brian Robinson 100+ rushing yards. Najee Harris looked capable against this defense in week 13. Like, I'm in.
All right, I got two different names for you.
Okay.
Both of these guys are owned in. So one of these guys is owned in 8% of leagues on ESPN. One is owned in 2%. Let's start with the first one. Chris Moore for the Houston Texans. We talked about Chris Moore last week. Kate, he had 11 targets last week, caught 10 of them for 121 yards. He should have had a touchdown. I'm still not convinced that he didn't get in. It was called a touchdown initially on the field, reviewed, got taken off the board. No Nico Collins this week, likely no Brandon Cooks. They're playing the Chiefs, which means they're probably going to be in a negative game script. I'm perfectly fine starting Chris Moore. I think at the floor, you're getting 5 for 50 with a chance to get much, much more. The other one for me, Tutu Atwell. In Baker's first start, Tutu got 9 targets. He got 5 for 50 yards against Green Bay. I could see them doing a lot of similar things. So these short slants, bubble screens. I like Tutu Atwell as somebody who seems like his role in the offense is growing. He's had at least 20 yards in 4 straight weeks. I'll play Tutu this week if I'm desperate for a flex play.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. At the quarterback position, let's shout out Matt Ryan, who is going up against the Minnesota Vikings. And
can Matt Ryan even hear? He's that old. Like,
no,
you have to really shout for Matt Ryan.
You have to shout for Matt Ryan. But like Matt Ryan and the Alec Pierce stack, I might actually be rolling with in some of my leagues where I'm super desperate, my 2 quarterback leagues. But I mean, this matchup has produced QB1 after QB1 after QB1. And Marcus, the most productive games we've seen out of Matt Ryan this year have been against bottom 10 passing defenses. So I think the opportunity is there. Alec Pierce, big play guy against a secondary that's been allowing some big plays. I don't hate the Matt Ryan, Alec Pierce pairing this week, even if it feels very vomititious.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also just kind of keeping an eye on Curtis Samuel. I know that's somebody that we talk about a lot, and his ownership really varies depending on leagues. He's like 50% owned in ESPN leagues right now. Just keeping an eye on him there to see what happens. All right. That is it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen, the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. All the same places that you would download the Locked On Dynasty podcast. Go follow Kate on Twitter at FFBallBlast. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy Saturday football, Sunday football. We've got a Monday night game that you and I will talk about on Monday morning. It's a great, great week of football, everybody. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you next time.